What's up, Philippe?
How you
How you
doing?
doing, buddy? Thanks for coming in
Thank
on
you for
such short
having me.
notice.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I've been great.
We've done one feature film together.
Yes, sir. We did.
Loved it. It was a lot of fun.
Same.
You've crushed it. So
Thank you. Thank you.
you're an actor. My first question, when did you know that you wanted to be an actor?
That's actually a very interesting question because, the beginning, just deviating for a little second, the beginning is different for everybody, It's like,
Mhm.
well, what's the beginning? For a lot of people is when you first have an impulse to act. For other people is when you first do a play. For other people is when you start taking classes. For others is when you get paid.
When you do that first feature film.
Or when you finally make a living from acting, because technically that's when you're really, really. But for me, I had the impulse to act since I can remember. I don't have any memories without it. That was actually the way that I learned how to speak English. My dad used to bring movies from the U.S. down to Mexico, which is where I'm from, like Flash Gordon, Star Wars. And I remember wanting to memorize them for my dad and wanting to play for my parents.
Like act out certain...
Act it out. Like, Dad, I memorized the movie. Watch, I'm going to do it. But I'm going to do it differently. Where the actor goes this way, I'm going to go this way because it's a better choice.
Mhm.
That's me at 4. I don't know where
Was music a big part of your life at that time too?
No, it was before music. It was acting.
So you just knew.
I always knew. It was always so easy for me to do like dialects and things like that. It was just so clear. But I didn't know what to do with it because no one in my family does it. It wasn't encouraged.
Did you get support from the family?
Depends what you call support. Did
Drama
they,
classes,
Not
school
really.
plays, or anything like that?
No, they never pushed it. They never got me a teacher or anything. I always had to go sign up myself at school.
Try to keep the sucker.
I had to.
Yep.
Sorry.
You're good.
I always had to seek it out myself.
So point this towards your mouth. So other put it on the bottom towards you. Yeah. There you go.
Like that?
Yep, perfect.
So I always had to, go find it myself. It was always something that I had to be very motivated about.
So you grew up in Mexico City?
I grew up in Mexico City until I was 7, 1982 or something, maybe 8.
And then you guys moved to...
And then we moved to San Diego, California.
Okay.
There was a very bad recession in Mexico, and it was just a really bad time to stay there. So we moved to San Diego, and we lived there for 10 years, and then we moved back.
And your mother's American?
My mom was from L.A. She passed away, but she was from L.A. Her name was Julie.
Mm-hmm. Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And my dad is Lebanese. He's still alive.
You close with your father?
Somewhat. I mean, we talk every Sunday.
That's nice, yeah.
Every Sunday I call him.
My parents live in Europe, so, I spend about an hour talking to them every Sunday if I get the time. How you doing, Sometimes it's just the same thing, repetitive.
Exactly. Sometimes we don't have anything to talk about.
Yeah.
But we do it anyway.
But you do it anyway.
Just to check in.
Exactly.
Just to check in.
Did your dad expose you to some of the culture from Lebanon, or?
Yeah, I'm much closer to my Lebanese heritage than I am my American one, because my mother's family wasn't really there very much. She fought with all of her brothers and sisters, or her sister, and so I was never really exposed to that side of the family. I even have family members here in L.A. that have been living here forever, and I've never even seen.
But your mom was from America and moved to Mexico? Is that where and that your dad did too, and that's where they met?
Yeah, basically my mom was born in L.A., and when she was 2 years old, my grandfather went to Mexico. He had sugarcane fields. So he took, my mother and her sister down to Mexico. So my mother ended up basically growing up in Mexico, even though her name was Julie, and she's a white girl from L.A.
Girl from L.A. Julie in Mexico.
Julie in Mexico.
Yeah. You go back to Mexico City?
I was starting to go back a little bit more right before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And now I'm just kind of stuck here. But
yeah.
I'm starting to go a little bit more.
Traveling has been difficult.
It's been difficult for everyone.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So then you moved to LA. Did you pursue the acting further? Obviously.
Yeah, it's always been part of my life one way or another. I got chosen to play Joseph, the father of Jesus, in Catholic school. when I was 8 years old. And then I started taking classes at 12 and then again at 14 and then in high school.
Was that a part of the school program, or were you taking something privately?
No, they just chose me randomly out of the whole school to play the lead.
No, I meant you said you started taking some classes. I actually did want to ask you about that because I know
that was
you
an
had
elective.
some really good.
That was an elective that I it was either metal shop or auto shop, wood shop, or whatever they call it, or acting. I'm like, I'll do acting.
I'll do.
So
I can act.
I'll do acting.
I
don't want to look at
I can act out all day.
Yeah, I'd rather look at a script than an engine. You know.
I got you. When it got really serious for you in acting, when you were like, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot.
I think it was right around when I was 18 or 20, somewhere around there. Right, I started taking classes in college, even though I studied engineering. I have a degree in math, believe it or not, which is totally unrelated to acting. And I'm also a semester away from an engineering degree, civil engineering.
Civil engineering?
Because that's what my father did. And of course, I went through the confusion of not knowing who I was. And this acting thing is so foreign to anything that I've ever known. So it never really felt like an option for me. So I went for the degree. But I still kept taking classes, and right after college, I went to the William Esper Studio in New York, and I studied theater in the early '90s.
Wow, how was that? How was New York in early '90s, and
the school itself, the acting, the training, or New York, or
both?
Wow, well, New York before Giuliani was fun because Giuliani really cleaned up the city, and before that, it was fun. You still have all the the sex shops and everything on 46th Street or whatever that it was. Right. It was like, it was grimy and dangerous, and it was still fun, and then Giuliani came and cleaned it up, and it wasn't so fun anymore.
But what about
studying theater was great in New York because
I mean that's the mecca of theater, right?
Yeah, and it's just there's a seriousness that you can't find anywhere else, at least that I've ever studied. I've studied in Mexico, Miami, and Boston, and San Diego, and LA. The level of the people in New York is unparalleled. Those are because it's harder to do theater than it is to do film. You need a lot of, more training. It's not just here, but it's your whole body. And you have to be able to project to the last row. And you have to be able to project all of the dynamics of the voice.
So you started, you basically made any silent word plays in theater.
Yeah, totally. I never really thought I'd be like a film actor. I don't particularly think I have a look for it. I'm more of a big guy, and I like to perform, and I move a lot.
You got the look for it.
I like to move a lot because I'm Latino. I like to move my hands and my arms, and so this is more for like theater, so I had to really retrain myself to be still.
Are you still doing theater or thinking about doing theater, or is there anything on the horizon for you that you're thinking about doing?
I don't think so because, with all due respect to LA, it's got a pretty crappy theater scene. It's got a pretty inexistent.
Well, I mean, with all due respect to LA, it's pretty crappy overall.
It's just not so strong. But who knows? Maybe, if I'm big and famous one day, maybe I'll have an apartment in New York and maybe I'll consider
some play.
Yeah.
Is there a play that you have your eye on that you like? I would love to play that character or role or.
Wow, because there's a lot of things. Of course, I love them, but will I ever get cast in any one of these things? It's like Shakespeare. Who's going to hire a Mexican to play Shakespeare? It's just, you know what I mean? It was just. But
you are actually American Lebanese.
I'm American Lebanese from Mexico.
From Mexico.
Yeah. Right.
It's
crazy.
I know. It's incredible.
I'm so mixed.
Well, I can relate, being from Europe and all that. But so did you actually play? Did you do any did you do only school or did you also play in New York?
Well, I also played in New York as well and part of the school and everything. And I was there and then in Miami as well.
How long were you in New York for?
I was in New York for 2 years. And then my mother got cancer, and I had to leave, and I had to go take care of her in Miami.
I'm sorry. So she lived in.
She was getting treatment in Miami.
So your father and mother, they separated?
So my mother and father divorced, and I lived with my father, which is very strange. My mother kind of dipped on us. They got divorced, and my mom's like, "Bye. I'm gonna take my inheritance from my father and the divorce money, and I'm going to go party." So
How old
she
are you when your parents separated?
she left when I was 7.5, 8 years old. So it's pretty early
Yeah,
that she
that's pretty
departed.
recent.
Yeah. So I was minimally in contact with her.
And then 10,
And then I
15,
got it
20 years
exactly. I got
later.
reacquainted with her later on.
Cool.
She would write postcards and call every once in a while. So she was always in the background somewhere.
Hmm.
And then when she got cancer,
Had to.
I felt like I had to, like, 'cause she had
Mhm.
nobody else, and it was just. So we got reacquainted with each other, and then she died.
So at this point, when you're in New York, acting is pretty much
Yeah,
100%.
that was
Like I'm
100%.
gonna give it a 100%
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
So when did that go from like when did you decide on first of all when did you decide to transition from theater to start thinking about film or television
Well, I went to Miami, and when I went to Miami
to take care of your mother?
to take care of my mother, I just saw that there are a lot of opportunities for Latinos to do novelas and all that kind of stuff. So I started to consider that
Okay.
more like in front of the camera rather than in the theater.
Mm-hmm. How did
you
that
know,
work out? Did you got it?
good. Yeah,
What
I
did
did
you
a
work
couple of
on?
novellas in Miami, which was pretty cool. I always play the bad guy because I look like an asshole. And that was pretty cool. But it's like a little bit of a mafia. You have to know people, and they always hire the big names, like anywhere else.
Like everything else, yeah.
So I'm like, fuck it. I'm just gonna go to LA and just bite the bullet. I look American, and my English is pretty good.
So this is when
This is, I'll tell you right now, this is in 2007.
you're like fuck
I'm like,
Miami.
fuck Miami. I'm just gonna go.
How did you like Miami? I have a mixed feeling about Florida.
I have a mixed feeling about Florida as well. I mean, it's good, great for some things, and some things is just, I don't.
So I grew up in the Czech Republic,
Yeah,
moved to Canada, then moved to LA, right? So Canada, Toronto, and Ontario, Vancouver, BC, very similar four seasons weather to Czech Republic. But my goal was to move up to warm weather. So
yeah.
I showed up on 11th of December in Toronto, Ontario, and I was like, "Fuck!" I
Fuck.
didn't really think this shit through.
Oops.
And then I stayed there for almost 6 years, working
Wow.
the union as an AD, right? Television, so go, 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 go. But what I wanted to ask you is, for me, then I went and lived in LA, right?
Right.
And I was like, this is the greatest place in the world
Yeah.
to live.
Palm trees.
Yeah,
Nice cars.
exactly. I was loving life. But then I had a company and I had some trade shows, so I drove across the country with a truck and a trailer, actually. Not like a big truck, but like a pickup truck and a nice like a 16-foot trailer. And I did the Santa Monica to Jacksonville, Florida drive, which is the Highway 10, straight, no other freeway, just one freeway. And as soon as I was in Florida, I thought it would be the same kind of a concept, a warm weather thing, but it's different. It's the kind of sticky, and the people are a little weird and different, and there's just something about it. And I was only in Florida for like a week or 10 days or something like that. But I was like, I'm really looking forward to going back to California.
Yeah.
Same thing driving through like Texas and everything, as I was like, well, this California thing, it really isn't that isn't that
Yeah.
bad. But you lived there for
I lived there for 6 years.
fuck, yeah,
I was there
long
for
enough to
long enough to get to know it. Yeah, it's different because, there are a lot of Cubans and I'm Mexican, and we're similar, but they're different. So it's a
similar
little
but
bit of a culture shock.
different.
But even though we're Latinos, it's still a little bit of a culture shock. And they basically run the city. Cubans run it. The judge is a friend of the guy that owns the pawn shop, whose cousin is the cop. So they have a network. They run the town. So there's a little bit of a learning curve and a breaking into the city.
And then from there, you decided that you're gonna hitchhike to LA.
And then from there, I decided to come back to LA. I lived in San Diego for 10 years, so I'm pretty acclimatized to California. So I decided to, just come to LA and just.
This is 2007.
This is 2007 when
Mm.
when I first got here. Yeah,
And
14 years ago.
Did you still have did you had an agent in Florida, or
I had an agent in Florida. Yeah.
so when you got here, did you try to look for somebody else, or you just kept your agent?
I had to look for somebody else.
Okay.
And I've had the worst luck with agents, man. I don't know what it is with me and agents.
Share.
I had like this agent, for instance, like I had to introduce myself every single time I went there. You know, it's like this is like a horror movie, like comedy movie agent. He had like headshots everywhere on the ceiling. You know, he had like all these piles of headshots. You go to the bathroom and there's like headshots on the roof, like on the ceiling by the toilet paper. There's somebody's headshot underneath it.
It's kind of weird, no?
You know, and he's like eating a sandwich. And hey, what's your name again? No, I'm Philippe. I'm one of your clients. What? I don't. Hold on a second. He's got to look through a Rolodex to find your name. You know, to him, it's all a numbers game. The more people he has, the more chances he has of making money.
Jesus.
So yeah, dude.
Was
So
you were you?
he only got me one gig in 2 years, and it wasn't even for acting. Check that out,
What was what was that for?
dude. He goes, "Listen, I feel really bad. I never got you anything. Do you want to be a bouncer? Do you want to do some bouncing?" I'm like, what is this for? It's like it's a really high end gay party for celebrities. He's like, no, no, but it's okay. But you know who's on the list? Dot, dot, dot. He started naming all these people. I'm like, wow, I didn't even know they were gay. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, you know what? It's no thanks.
Bounce.
Yeah. I'm like, what does that have to do with?
So he didn't even get you a one gig. It was an offer of a gig that had nothing to do with acting.
Exactly. And then the next one, I had another one, and then she sent me out to. It was like an hour away from L.A. Just the wrong casting, the wrong audition. Like I show up to the place from the lobby, right? And I talk to the security guard. You got to sign your name. He's like, "Are you here for the audition?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, you're not right for the type. You're not right for the role." I'm like, "What the fuck? Who is this guy?" Like, he's telling me like, you know. So I'm like, whatever. I go upstairs, and he's right, dude. I show up, and there's all these Samoan people that are like 600 pounds. She took me to an audition where they were looking for a 600-pound Samoan. Everybody had like palm tree shirts and like ukuleles, and I'm like, how do you think that I could play any of this shit? They looked at me and they're like, I'm sorry, we're not even gonna look at you.
Yeah, waste of
And
time.
I left. I mean, these are the agents, the crappy agents that I had to go through in LA.
Well, so listen, for listeners, for aspiring actors out there, you know, so somebody who has as much experience as you have. So the agent, it seems like do you have a kind of have you kind of figured out what to look for? What would you say, like, hey, stay away from this. This is where, you know, you should look out for. Do you have a,
how about I give you advice? Like if I, let's say I was talking right now to an auditorium, right, with a whole bunch of like actors that were just getting out of acting school and they were figuring the whole agent thing out. This is what I would say to them. I would tell them to get between 5 or 10, round up 5 or 10 people, right, friends, and then start their own talent agency and submit themselves on Actors Access and all the other. Start your own talent agency and just submit yourselves. I don't know why anybody hasn't thought of this one before.
you do?
You know, you need a $50,000 surety bond, but there are people that for a couple $100 they'll put it for you. So you pay, depending on your credit, like maybe $1,000 a year or something like that, and you start your own agency,
Talent agency,
and that's it. And you just submit yourselves all day long to Actors Access and everything else.
Can you be your own agent as an actor?
I think you can. I checked it out with a lawyer a while ago, and I think he said that you can.
Interesting.
Just do that.
Yeah.
You know, and the other one is exactly what people do. It just to produce their own stuff, especially today. It's so easy to just do it.
Self tapes, everything. Shorts.
Just and just make a feature, bro. You know, if your friends, if everybody chips in and you're all together, then it should be relatively cheap to make a movie.
Well,
I mean, if you're the camera guy, if you're the DP and you have your camera and I'm the actor and then he's the director and we're all kind of chipping it. I mean, how much can it really cost? 50 grand, maybe 100 grand.
Well, it depends on what you're shooting,
you guys all
where you're shooting, you know.
But that's a year's worth of work between 5-6 guys.
True.
You can make a movie in a year.
Yeah.
And that's so much more powerful.
Especially with how accessible cameras and everything is now.
Yeah, and HD. Before the expensive thing was turning the film into you know, because it's photography. It's literally like film that you have to and now it's HD.
Well, film itself was, super expensive.
That's what I'm saying. The rolls and
So you ended up here. You had a bad luck with agents.
Yeah.
How are you doing now with agent? You're pretty
Well,
happy?
actually, I have a meeting tomorrow with an agent. It's funny you should say that. Um, through a friend of mine, this girl, this talent agency. I'm going to go talk to them tomorrow. But I'm in a different position because now, I have the ability to be able to produce my own stuff. So in a way, it's really funny when you need an agent, they're not interested in you, and when you don't
then
need
they're
an agent,
knocking on
now
the
they
door.
want you.
Now they're
It's
knocking
really
on the door.
funny how that works.
Yeah.
Now because I honestly I make my own stuff. I could care less if I have an agent or not. But it can't hurt to go out on auditions and see what else I can get while I make my things happen.
Do you have a mindset that when you're going into an audition, how do you deal with the rejection? Because I think the acting and the actors is constant rejection, right? Somebody's looking for someone very specific.
Yeah.
I'm looking into making my first feature right now. I'm thinking about the cast, and I'm like, some people I wouldn't even look at, but it has nothing to do with them. Maybe I wouldn't look at them for another film, but just for the role or for that part, right? So,
yeah.
How do you cope with the
Well,
rejection?
It's funny you should mention that because I always took it very I'm very sensitive to that stuff. When you're just an actor, you take rejection on a very deep level because they're rejecting you and they're not giving you any information. They're not giving you any pointers.
Right.
You fucked up that line or your acting sucked or
nothing.
They're
It's
not giving
more
you
like,
anything. They're
no
just
thanks.
rejecting you and leaving you with all this homework to do in your head, trying to figure out what it was that made you not get the job. But now that I did a movie and I was part of the casting process, now I see that it has nothing to do with your acting ability. It's like Guillermo del Toro says, it's more about suitability. It's about you fitting the part, looking the part. There's a certain feel that is unexplainable. It has nothing to do with your talent. So I try to remember that now. So whenever I get rejected, I'm like, well, I just wasn't the type that they were looking for. It's not really my acting, so I don't take it so personally anymore.
But took a while to get.
It took a while.
Yeah.
It took a while.
What would so if you went to an audition before you got rejected, when you said you took it really personally, would it sit with you for a while?
Yeah, totally, dude. And I go over it and over it and over it in my head. And I'm like, what did I do? Was it that line? Or maybe I could have, because there's so many possibilities on what you could have done.
Then when you were going to a next audition, would that be still like in your head, like on the last one, I didn't get it, and then rejected, like?
Well, you try to get it out, but it's probably still there. You take with you all your rejections.
So what I'm saying, what would you do to try to go to the next one? I'm gonna get this one. Like, how did you overcome that rejection? Because I see it in the casting room.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I try to just concentrate and be present. You know what I mean? You have to train yourself as an actor to always leave your problems at the door, as they say in the theater. Just leave it out in the door and just be there. Be there. Just be present.
Do you
and listen.
Do you like where the pandemic did kind of with the casting is everything's everything and everyone is almost self-taping now?
Well, it was headed in that direction anyway.
Yeah.
It was kind of, even before the pandemic, I used to do auditions at this place where they film you and they send it for you.
Mm-hmm.
It was self-taping anyway.
Self-taping anyway.
It was headed in that direction anyway. So I don't think it really changed that much more than it was going to anyway.
Have you done any self-tapes recently?
No, not recently. I've been so involved with this movie and getting it off the ground and making sure that it gets done.
How long? Let's talk about that real quick. How long did it take from the time where you? So first of all, there was so let's talk about it. So we've done a movie together. It's called American Sicario.
Right.
And it was written and by Rich Ronnet.
Mm-hmm.
And directed by Raja Collins.
RJ Collins, right?
RJ, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And but you had this in your head for a really, really long time, right? So eventually, you were not were you not getting what you wanted as offers to act, and you were like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna go make the movie that I want to make, the role that's right for me, and I'm just gonna have somebody write that for me."
Well, I think both of those things were happening. I wasn't getting the work that I wanted, but I also wanted to do that. So producing is not just about making it, and making yourself known, but it's also about having the freedom and the creative control to do what you really want to do.
What do you really want to do?
Yeah. So the development part can take so long. which is why I got stuck in it with looking for the money and looking for somebody to believe in the project and getting the group together and everything. But once you have the money, it's pretty fast after that. You know,
Yeah, usually the money is the
that's
hold
what holds everything up.
But you started with the short.
I started with a short.
Did the short have a name?
I think we just called it La Barbie.
Okay.
You-
Are we allowed to say any of these?
Well, officially that was the short that I made. The movie is American Sicario.
Right. But
And it has nothing to do with La Barbie.
got it.
You know,
Okay.
so. But that was the idea. You know, I always, before I checked it with a lawyer, I really wanted to portray this guy, and that was the original idea. And then we kind of like, you know, went in a different direction with it and called it American Sicario.
Love it. And then, how did you even came across the story?
Well, they've been, you know, people used to fuck with me in school because I looked so much like La Barbie, the narco from Mexico, that they started to fuck with me. Yeah, here comes La Barbie. Hey, La Barbie, come here. You know, they used to fuck with me in school. And then it just kind of became kind of like my nickname between my friends. That they all kind of fuck with me and call me La Barbie. So then I'm like, why don't I do a thing about La Barbie? I already look so much like this guy. And he just got busted. He's in jail now. He was on the cover of CNN. There's a little bit of hype behind this guy. Why not do it? And I'm Mexican. And he's also Mexican and American, which is really what I am.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? Why not explore this guy? So I took a leap of faith, and
Who wrote the short? Was it you?
the short was based on an article,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, I mean, we can talk about all this stuff because it wasn't released. Obviously, the short, you know, and we didn't make any money off of it. It was just for us. It was really just a proof of concept.
Yep.
So it was loosely based on an article that was written about him in Rolling Stone, the magazine, and it was adapted by.
And this is when did you do the short?
This is maybe 2007.
The short was in 2007.
I think so. Don't quote
Can
me
you
on
guys explain what a proof of concept is for the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Well, when you have a concept for a movie, you want to talk about like you've went through the. I'm actually working a proof of concept for my movie, but
it can mean many different things and for many different people. You know what I mean? But
in film,
it would really, you know, for my purposes, it was just to prove to myself that it was something that I wanted to go forward with.
the role, the character,
The character was just to prove, like it was a characterization kind of exercise, and also so that I can give the investors a visual.
Yeah.
So they can see it. This is what we're looking at. This is what, give them a taste of what the movie can look like.
Yeah. So for me, working on the project with Rich now, you know, there is, we're working on a proof of concept section of the script for proof of concept that I'm going to direct and shoot, because as a first time director for a feature film, for the financiers and everybody, they kind of want to see, you know, hey, what is this going to look like?
What is it going to look like? It's a
Give
deck.
us- give
it's
us-
a digital deck.
Yeah, but I'm doing actual, like a short too. Like
Yeah.
they want us to film a proof of concept, you know,
Sure.
like a little scene
A
or
teaser,
something.
a proof,
Yeah.
a taste.
Like, hey, show us what is the tone, what is it going to look like, what do you know, put us, and
Give us
also
a visual.
give us a visual, put some serious money into it too, so we can look at something that, you know, is going to be to the level of where you think that the movie, you know, and the budget expectations and all that. So that's proof of concept. You guys shot the proof of concept with the short film about this, and that's 2007.
I think so. 2000 and yeah, man, it was a while. It was a while ago already. Yeah, 2007, 2009, something, or 2008, somewhere around there. I mean, yeah. No, I'm sorry, 2000. I'm spacing out. I think it was 2017.
2017, not
Sorry,
2007.
Sorry, 2017.
That's the short.
I'm sorry. I was a decade off. I'm sorry.
Because I was
Sorry.
like, wow, hold on.
Sorry.
I didn't think.
Did you put something in the water, bro? What is this? Jeez. Avion? Okay.
Well, maybe they'll sponsor the show.
Maybe they'll sponsor the show. Yeah, 2017. I'm
Gotcha.
sorry. Yeah, it was only like four years ago.
Amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, what? I was. That didn't make.
I added an extra decade.
Yeah,
well,
well,
it felt like it.
fuck.
It felt like
Felt
a
like an
fucking
extra decade.
Oh God! And it was funny because it was just a leap of faith. One day, I swear, I just called this guy that used to work for me, and I'm like, dude, let's just fucking do this thing, dude. Like, for what? Just for us. Let's just see what happens. Just like a little, just to prove to ourselves, you know. You don't have to know what the second step is to take the
What
first.
did the proof of concept did for you?
It gave me confidence. It gave me credibility. You know, I would send it to, you know, my dad, my friends, my this, and they're like, wow, it looks great. Like it really, it gave me the confidence, man, the validation.
Like, I can do this. I'm going to do this.
It gave me validation. And, you know, yeah, my family got to see me and like doing like, what are you up to here? Look at this. It gave me a validation.
It's amazing. I know you mentioned you don't like to watch yourself.
No, I really don't.
I hear it with actors here and there that they don't like to watch themselves. What is so this gave you, but now watching the result, right? You're watching the whole thing, not just yourself. And you were, so I'm assuming you were happy with it, gave you the confidence, like you just said. So, would you say that watching yourself what's the reason behind you're not liking to watch yourself? The main reason?
Sure.
Is it you trying to because do you watch dailies? I can't remember quite on set.
The rushes. I think I did a few of them, but even that I don't really like to watch very much. Well, my thing is basically I'm very critical. I'm a very critical person.
Of yourself?
Of myself, of anything. I like to chop everything up. You know, I'm an INFP personality type, which is almost where I'm almost a logician. So I like to chop everything up and analyze it. I love to read self-help and how-to books and things like that. I read 3 or 4 books a week, if you can imagine.
Big reader, huh?
I'm a humongous reader for the last 25 years or more now. But so I'm very critical, and if I start to watch myself, I think I'll develop a different relationship where it'll hinder my acting, if that makes any sense. Because in acting, it's all about being present and listening and being available. And I don't think that I can be present and at the same time be watching myself be present.
You would want to maybe make changes and
exactly
adjust.
Because now I'm being critical of myself, and I'm you know what I mean? You can't be there and be criticizing yourself at the same time. You have to be there at one point and just let it all go. You know? And if I start to develop this relationship where I know what I look like, what facial features am I putting, is this good, is this bad, it'll take me out of the moment.
What do you look for from a director on set?
Wow. That's a great question. I like directors that know what they want, because it makes my job easier.
Here's what, especially if you're not watching yourself and adjusting, right? Then you need a very clear direction of like, this is Philippe, dude, like this.
Exactly. And that's it. I like working with directors that know what they want, because if they don't know what they want, then it makes my job more difficult, because I start doing one thing and they're like, change it. And then I'm like, how about this? That's not what I'm. So you understand what I'm saying? It's kind of like you're trying on clothing. This is what you're going to wear, and then you just wear it. But here, let me put that. No, I don't like it. Change it. So now you're changing 17 fucking
it's
suits.
Different thing. Is there do you like a lot of notes? Do you like kind of freedom to do your thing? Like, hey, I'm looking for this, but then you kind of take it from there, or?
I think it's somewhere in the middle.
And the development process with the director. What about, talk about a little bit about that, the character development. You know, your character development and development with the director and the team.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay. That's a separate question. Finishing off on what I expect from a director. Yeah, there's some things that need to happen in a frame in order to relay the story and to tell it even better. You know, like, for example, that scene that we were doing where I was in jail making a phone call and there was a guard behind me. I think it was very good for me to move my eyes to the left. That way I'm letting people know that I'm aware of the presence of the guard.
Yeah.
So these small things that you might not think of because you're so in the moment are very important for a director to go, you know what, make sure that you look to the left to notice these small adjustments.
So small details make a huge difference.
Are important. Yeah.
Raja was great, fantastic directorial debut in the fact that we moved so fast. He knew exactly what he wanted.
Exactly. And at the same time, sorry to interrupt, and very trusting of his actors.
Yeah. I think, yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Very
100%.
trusting and very quick. It was very interesting
Yeah.
how he just
Yeah, I got what I need.
bop,
I
bop,
know
bop,
what I
bop,
need.
bop.
I know what I want.
Very efficient.
It's good.
He knew exactly what he wanted, which is great. We did it in 2 weeks.
Yeah, dude, you tell me.
That was insane how we just cranked that thing out.
11 days.
11 days, dude. Wow.
I remember the first day and then the last day when I came to you and I said, you were like, so we're doing this. And I'm like, and then like halfway through and like, wow, we're making it happen. I'm like, dude, I think it was like the 6th or 7th day people were getting tired. And I said, by the time we get to the last day, nobody's going to want to leave the set. You're not going to want to quit. You're going to be like, I wish we could shoot another day, another day, and another day.
Yeah, because you go through this phase at the beginning. You're like scared. You don't know what's going on. The first day is super hard. You're like, wow, I have 2 more weeks of this shit. Oh, my God.
Well,
and then you plug through, and then you get a second win somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. Well, you started with the solitary confinement scene. So it was the whole day we were just on you, right? And then we had 2 days in the desert.
Ugh. Yeah, the first days were the worst of them all.
Yeah.
So that really made me feel very pessimistic. I'm like, is this what's going on? I have 2 weeks of this shit?
Yeah, dude, trust
Holy
me.
crap.
I'm fucking well aware of the craziness that happened in the first 2 days.
I know. Well, but they don't know. That's why I'm saying it in the podcast. But yeah, because we started with the torture scenes at the end. Yeah. That was my first day. All right, buddy, let's go.
Let's not give up anything about
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But
favorite moment
of the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a really great question. Whew. Now you're really making me think, because there's so many scenes. It's like
not so much of the scenes, like maybe the process. You know, I'm kind of wondering about the process working with the director and the
meeting
crew,
with Tori. That had to be the best moment.
Tori was definitely a highlight. Especially when he made me arrive super early and there was nothing for me to do. I'm like, why am I here so early, dude? I'm like, dude, I could have slept another hour or two. It's like, sorry, we don't need you for another couple hours. You can wait in the green room. I'm like, oh, God.
The green room.
Oh. With my iPad. What was my favorite? I really enjoyed working with Maurice. That was so awesome, man. He's such a fantastic actor. Maurice Compt, from Narcos, and he has a resume from hell. Really talented actor, and some of those scenes were just it was so interesting watching him work, because he's just pacing, and I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? He's going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Like, what the fuck? He's finding the rhythm of the character. He's finding the rhythm, and he's saying the lines in rhythm. He was finding the rhythm. He was really big on finding the rhythm. I'm like, wow, it's so interesting.
You guys were really great together, yeah. On screen.
I would like to think so. It was really great.
Yeah.
And that scene we did where, right before the face-off, it was just great. That kind of heat moment, the 2 bad guys kind of have their little face-off right before the end.
I'm going to backtrack a little bit back to how we even got to the 11 days of shooting this craziness and achieving it. But you got the short, 2017. Like, I can do this. I want to do this character. So I'm assuming you dived in to the character even more. What was the next step? Well, like, okay, I want to make this into a feature film. I want to do it my way. So I know that you had to fund a significant portion of the film in order to remain control.
Sure.
Creative and somewhere we kind of wanted to go. But what was the next step?
After that?
After the short?
Well, I pitched it around to 1,000 people, and, nobody was it was interesting because I thought it was such a good topic and everybody liked it, but for some reason nobody was biting into it. No one was sinking their teeth into it. So yeah, I didn't fund it with my own money because I didn't think that I had enough to create what I wanted. Because action sequences are expensive,
Yeah, tell me about it.
So I'm like, God, I mean, I can come up with some money, but not movie action money funds. That's way too much money. And my dad never really wanted to. My family never supported me on any of this shit. Ever. In fact, my dad wants me to fail, so I go back crying with the tail between my legs and, I'm sorry, Dad. I should have worked for you. He still thinks
family business.
Yeah, like he wants me to continue his dreams. You know, so he underneath his spit, he really wants me to fail. So anyway, so I asked him for money, and he shot it down. You know, even a couple $100,000. No way. They're going to screw us out of the money. So I started saving my own money, and I came up with you know, a
decent
chunk.
Yeah.
And then
we got some other people a little bit.
And then I started to assemble the team little at a time.
Well, so you had the concept. What I'm saying, you pitched it, but eventually you were gonna go do it yourself. But like, how did you meet Raja? How did you meet Ross? You know Ross through Higan Machado.
Right. Higan Machado's been my best friend really for, God, I want to say like 13 years since I got here.
Wow.
Maybe 2008, something like that. I've known him for a while. And when I mean best friend, like we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. Like, I'm like, dude, if you were a girl, I would have married you already. Like, he's my brother, you know. Like I see him every day. So so one day, just like nothing like that, it came out of my mouth. I'm like, Higan, you know what, dude? I want to do my movie. You know, I saved up a little bit of money. I want to make a movie. Nowadays, you don't need that much money to make a movie. Well.
Depends who you ask.
It depends on who you ask.
So a lot of people, that's, 5-10 years of salary. So, but you're right. Yeah. And I think what helped tremendously, from my point of view, is our DP, me, Raja, we were stuck in the middle of the pandemic.
Right.
Nobody was doing anything, and people were like, "I'll work a quarter of my rate. I just want to get the fuck out of town and get on set."
Right.
And I think the reason we were able to achieve what we achieved with the budget we were, because we really had an incredible crew. I worked on a lot of sets, a lot of different crews, especially in television. You move and switch. I've probably done over 100, 120 TV episodes in my career. So one of the best crews I've ever worked with, American Sicario.
That's great, man.
It was incredible, man. Yeah.
So
everybody
talented. Everyone.
Everybody came together. Everybody was focused, lasered on making it the best. So many people, wear multiple hats,
and even the post, all the stuff that's happening now,
it's incredible. Yeah,
really
very incredible, incredible.
And the distribution, like Raja really knocked it out of the park.
So you met Ross, our producer.
So I met Ross through Higan when I asked him that I wanted to, I wanted to make a movie. I needed a team. He first put me in contact with Ross. So I hired Ross, and then I'm like, well, I think we should hire producers, like people that could help us cut down on the budget because they have facilities and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, great, let's start introducing. So then I asked Higan again if he knew other people, and he introduced me to Raja.
So Higan knew Raja.
How
did they know each other?
I have no idea how they met.
I don't know that story.
I have no idea.
So now we have a director, producer.
Well,
another producer.
First he came on as a producer, and we were thinking of hiring a director, but then later he just stepped in as a director as well.
So fuck it, I'll just direct it.
Well, yeah, because we didn't have the budget for somebody really big. We didn't have time to hire anybody really big. We didn't think it would be good for the movie to have, because Raja and Rich know each other well and they work well together.
Yeah, so Raja brought in Rich, the writer.
Right, correct.
So when you had that short and then Raja, Ross, you guys all met. Now, there was somewhat of a small team.
Mm-hmm.
You handed over kind of the idea of what you wanted it to be. Raja and Rich worked on multiple features together before. And, Raja's been producing for 25 plus years. What was the atmosphere there to like, okay, let's go, let's write this, let's make and first of all, when was this? So this is what, when did you, the core group first got together?
This is, God, I want to say August of last year. August of 2020?
No way.
Yeah, it was from August. And
that's where you guys first met?
We met in August of 2020.
You know when we met on the boat in Malibu Lake, me and you and Raja?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, this is the guy who's going to play. And you were telling me, and we were chatting a little bit.
And whose birthday was that?
I don't know. I don't think it was just a barbecue. Our DP Pascal, he does.
That was on my birthday, September 6th.
Was it?
Yeah, I remember because after that I had to leave. I had to leave and go to a dinner party.
Yeah.
So that was September 6th. We had met a month before that in
month
August.
before that. And Rich wrote the whole thing and
Yeah, Rich
everything in what 2 months then?
He did it in no time. Yeah, I think
August.
I think in a month he had the first draft, and then we just tweaked it.
We had a first principal day of photography on November 2nd.
Right, and we met in August. So from August, having the money in August, we were shooting already in November.
So hiring Rich, who's an ultra fast writer, great, it's crazy,
unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah,
even though he had the article to go by a little bit. I mean, he already kind of had the gist
crazy.
of what it is, but he still had to
the
carve
spit
it
out
into
and then I got I came into a picture in about a draft number 5 kind of version of the script, and then there were little tweaks and based on characters and availability and whatnot. But wow, that's really fast.
It's really fast.
Really fast.
I don't know why, but we all say the same thing, and maybe you should tell me if you see it too, but we all think there's a higher force making this project happen, because we survived so many things that we should not have survived.
The circumstances of the whole situation really played. The pandemic and everybody being cooped up at the home for months and months and months and not being able to get on set and do what we love to do. It really then made everybody realize, especially me, for example, like how much I love what I do. And I was like, really, this is really a passion and love for me more than a money. We did get paid. Wasn't anything crazy. It was like independent film, small budget. But I think everybody was there mainly because they believed in the script, they believed in you, Raja, the director, and everyone else, Ross and everybody else.
Pascal, wow, what a talent!
Yeah,
everyone.
The film looks incredible,
dude. And wait, all this post stuff that's happening. Wow. Wait till the music and the color correction.
Were you involved in the writing of the script, or did you let Raja and Rich kind of?
Well, we based it loosely. We wanted to acquire the rights to this thing, this article. But again, we changed it. It's not the Barbie story anymore. So it's not about the article. But we got the idea, was the seed, let's call it, from that article, and we based it loosely on that. But it's really not his story anymore. So.
Who is the person who actually acquired the rights to the La Barbie story?
Well, this guy
Ryan Reynolds.
First, Charlie Hunnam wanted to do it, and then Armie Hammer wanted to do it.
Yeah.
But he wanted to base it on that article that we're talking about, the Rolling Stone article.
Did he get the life rights?
No, he didn't. He tried to acquire them. A friend of mine saw him at a party, and he asked him about the La Barbie story, and he said that he wasn't interested in it
anymore.
He wasn't interested anymore. He's on to other things, and so that's it. But again, our story is not about La Barbie, so that was just kind of the idea. That was some
inspiration
really.
Idea.
But in reality, it's a whole other character with fictional characters, and we go on to I'm not going to spoil the end, but things change.
Absolutely.
The events are totally different than real life.
All right, so for any younger actors out there that are about to embark on the journey, kind of where you've gone, a bunch of plays, theater, television, some guest starring on some films, eventually to getting to save up, which is very admirable. Head down to you, sir, for taking the time, saving up money, and say, I'm going to believe in this vision. I'm going to do this. I'm going to save up because from the time you showed the short was 2 or 3 years before you shoot.
Right.
So saved up over time. And then you kind of put all the money on this project, find the right team. I almost want to say that the pandemic really played in your cards, brother.
Totally.
Because the budget would have been, for example, the budget, if this wasn't even like a normal, it would have been triple, if not more, to where we ended up being. But regardless what the budget was, it was the willingness of certain people to even just come on board and do it and be, was amazing.
Yeah.
But so when this got real, and you're like, fuck, we're this is going to happen. We're making it. Not just the money, right? You had the money. We've then other investors came in. And when did you start working on the character? What's the approach? So like, I want you to talk about a little bit. So anybody who's gone through what you've gone through, and now you have a feature film under your belt, leading role, and the whole process. I know you've had some acting coaches.
A whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty familiar with all the methods. Well,
yeah. So what was the process for the character?
Wow. Well,
is the character name still the same? Can I even say that?
No, it's the character's name is Erik.
Okay. So is that are we allowed to say what the character's name is?
Yeah.
Because it's on IMDb, right?
Yeah. Erik.
Erik, you can.
Yeah, Erik.
Erik is the name.
It was
the official name.
It was originally. We can't say.
Yeah,
we can't say.
We can't say.
Okay. So Erik, you played the lead character. How did you research the role? How did you develop the character? What was the process when you really knew that you were going to be the lead star of this film? This kind of this is a group effort, but that we were going to be all kind of looking up to you and say,
yeah,
steer the ship, sir. Show us where we're going.
Yeah, because everyone is different. I mean, ultimately, you want to be able to see through his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
No, and that's a process. I mean, you have to really get to know the character and make parallels between your life and see where you're similar and how you're different. And there are many ways of kind of going into a character, and depending on how similar you are to that person, then you have either more work or less work to do. In this particular case, we have very similar lives. Apart from all the illegal stuff that he did,
You sure?
He's Mexican, and I'm absolutely sure. He's Mexican, and so am I, but he also lives in the U.S., and so did I, and he plays sports, and that. So it's kind of like I started to realize that, God, we're very similar, this guy and me. So it wasn't so much of a stretch to be able to play somebody like that. I understand the Mexican dynamic, the family dynamic, the mentality. The parents are that he was expected to work for the father and the family business and the pressure. So I already had a real big kind of hand into the character already. But in general, it changes every single time. It's very different how you create a relationship of understanding with a character so that you can.
So for this particular role, because this movie is coming out soon, because we got created some momentum and movies picked up and getting, So we're just finishing up right now. But so what was this particular role process for you like?
What was it like? Like, how did I do it? Or?
Yeah, how did you break it down? Because nobody really knew you that well from the team. And I remember already being in Vegas, feature film, first time director. And this was a major first time kind of a big feature film role for you.
Right.
We did the table read. And then I remember me and Ross and everybody meeting afterwards and being like, fuck, this is great. This is fucking great. We're making a great we're making a movie. Yeah. After the Zoom call fucking table read.
Yeah.
When you read for the first time the whole script, we all saw it coming together and we were like, oh fuck, he can act. This is good, because you're coming into it, you don't know. Yeah. And I told you this, I think on day 1 or day 2 when we were talking, you're like, how are we doing? And I said, listen, I didn't know you for shit. I had no idea. Right.
Uh-huh.
And but my job was to make the movie happen on time and on budget, keep everybody safe and just, car scenes and remember, what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We'll keep that under wraps.
We'll keep that for another episode.
Yeah, exactly. And in a way, I always want to work on a great movie and great project with great actors and everything you attach to your name. But in the other end, this was more like, okay, well, this is Raj's baby and your baby, so it's really up to you guys. But I have to tell you, after the table read, I was like, and I told you, I said, I didn't know you for shit. But after the table read, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. You did fucking great. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I was that much more excited. I loved the script. I obviously, read it 50 times because as an AD, I break it down all the time.
You have to, yeah.
And yeah, because my job, when people are kind of like, what are we doing next? For me, always know what we're doing next, where we're going, who's there, what wardrobe you're supposed to be in, what you're saying, where you're standing. Don't, Philippe, no, not there. You're going to hand him the gun over there. And then okay, let's go. And then you get in your character. But yeah, the table read was really good for me to be like, wow, I got really excited. I was like, this is going to be great.
That was good.
Mm-hmm.
And we had Maurice there. We
had
had everyone there.
Yeah.
It was
everyone.
a big Zoom thing. It was great.
Yeah. And in a way, we had one person who, outside of the coming on set, prior to even coming on set, when he was going to get his test, got tested positive.
Yeah, that guy.
And it's the character that played a brother to Maurice, right?
One of the characters.
And Johnny, dude, how good he was.
Dude, it was a godsend. I'm telling you, there was some other force working through this movie and he had such weird energy. This guy that was supposed to play a character, I'm not going to mention which one, but he walks in and it just didn't fit in. He was by himself and he wouldn't talk to anybody. I'm like, who's he playing? He's playing that character. Oh, wow. Because we hired him locally in Vegas, and he's just kind of weird and funky and just had a different energy.
It worked out fantastic.
And then he got COVID. He flunked the test. We had to recast it.
Mm-hmm.
And then this guy came on board, and he just nailed it.
Paolo.
Like, wow, Paolo.
Paolo picked up the phone, called his buddy, and said, hey.
Yeah.
Was it Paolo? Paolo, right?
Yeah.
Paolo called his buddy and was like, hey, I think you're
Johnny,
perfect for
can you help us out? And Johnny showed up, and
Paolo saved our ass.
Everybody saved everybody's ass constantly on daily basis, 24/7 around the clock. That department, that person,
including Tori,
absolutely 100%. Well, who was carrying the footage
of course.
from the set?
Making sure everybody arrived 2 hours early. Tori,
yeah,
even when they weren't needed. Tori.
Hey, well,
sorry about that, guy.
I approved all the call sheets. So,
whatever.
It
was fun.
Yeah, dude. I told you.
It was fun being there.
Last day when we were talking, I was like, tomorrow you wish you were here again.
Yeah, it was so sad. It's kind of like, it's almost like we're graduating from school and it's like, we're seniors and we're done. And it's like, dude, we're all going back into the world.
So American Sicario. What a blast, man.
Awesome.
Right. Going a little bit back to it again, because I asked you this and I think we kind of skipped through it, was that you developed the character yourself, and you kind of give me an idea about the process. But how was it developing the character with Raja? Were you guys right away on the same page, or what you guys both wanted from the... So this is the director act. So
yeah,
I'm working on my first feature film, writing it with Rich, the same writer.
Right.
It just so happened that 2 opportunities actually presented themselves, and now we somehow happened to be writing 2 features at the same time. Wow. However, I'm, interesting kind of a thing for me. Rich sent me the first draft of the script. As a first AD, I've never seen a first draft. Meaning, for me, I get the 10th or 5th or 7th draft when it's pretty close to what we're going to shoot.
Exactly.
So I got the first draft of movie that we came up with together, the outline. And I'm like,
what the fuck is this?
No. First of all, well, yes.
What the fuck?
No. It was kind of like,
what are you smoking, dude?
I was like, I've never read a first draft because it's a brilliant first draft. It really is. It's a brilliant first draft, but there's so many question marks in it for me to figure out with him. So what do you see with this? And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I'm loving the process, but now, I got this 120-page script from him back, and I'm like, oh shit, this is going to take me weeks.
It's going to take you a long time. I haven't worked any of this shit
I haven't done, the breaking a script that's done and polished, and I'm just trying to figure out who and what and how and this and that, and it's completely different. So I'm loving the process, but I wanted to know from your experience with Raja working on American Sicario. Script gets to a certain draft. Did you read the drafts from draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, or did they kind of waited until there was something that they were ready and happy to present to you?
I saw all of them.
Okay.
From it started out with an outline, with the story, and it started with an outline, and Rich's outlines are super big. So it's like it's one outline that's 15 pages of just paragraph after paragraph after
That's exactly how we did the.
It's really Rich trying to figure out what he wants to say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But it's great. I love it too. But it's so creative.
But from there to the first draft, it's a whole other ball game, you know. So we're on to Rich. Whenever he brings his outline, we're like, dude, here, just bring us the fucking first draft. Because this thing, I don't know, we're gonna break our heads here, and it's gonna be something totally different.
So then you guys are on. Let's call it the third draft, right? We're getting really kind of closer to also what we're gonna shoot, what the shape of the movie and everything. Where are you and Raja, where are you with the director right now? What are you talking about the character? What do you talk about the story and things like in terms of development? Like the process, that's what I really want the listeners and everybody watching this to kind of get from this, because
well, I think that, you know, like again, Raja's very trusting. He kind of knew that I had a very good sense of who this guy was. And Raja just kind of pushed me back into my lane when I would get out. You know what I mean? Like, for example, if I dropped the accent a little bit, you know, because he had a very laid back sort of like a Cheech and Chong kind of fucking it, you know, this kind of a laid back. And sometimes it's kind of, I forget. So I'd be shooting and I'm like back into my normal way of speaking. And then he goes, dude, hey, bring the essay thing back in.
Do you remember when we were shooting with Trejo in the living room and I came to you and I said, do the...
Oh my God.
The German accent.
The outtake. This started as the German thing was like, you know.
I came to Philippe and I said, listen.
What happened? Did you hear about that?
Yeah,
story?
so I came to Philippe. Trejo's sitting on the couch. Everybody's ready for the take. I come to Philippe and I said, you know what, just do this one with your German accent. And he's like, really? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, fucking do it.
We're going to do one outtake.
He had no idea what the fuck was happening.
And he was so tired already. And it was nighttime and we'd been shooting there. And I don't know how I still mustered up the courage to do one thing.
The crew got it within about the first second.
You know, because it was one of the scenes of like, dude, you started a war. What are you fucking doing? And I'm like, I don't know, man. This sounds so confusing. I think I better call like it's his mother or like the cat from the neighbors or something. No, and everybody's like, what the fuck is he talking about? I did this whole German thing, like, I don't know, like, it's so confusing.
I
like,
know,
I
remember.
I feel like crying.
And then
maybe calling my mother or something.
Yeah. And then looking Raja and the scripty behind them, Crystal behind the mother, and they look at me kind of like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah, everybody got it within the first 5 seconds.
It was Raja's like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, that was great.
It was great. It was so much fun.
Great laugh.
I think the worst that just... You asked me what the best part of it. The worst part of it was that scene that we had to do outside when it was fucking freezing. Remember when we're like out in the buffet and we're eating food in the breakfast, and I do
the morning scene.
The cheers to like
that's in the trailer.
Yeah, okay. Remember there was a guy with a mower that wouldn't shut the fuck up, and it's freezing, and it had to look like it was sunny and hot, and I had to like take off my coat, so I'm fucking freezing my ass off, and the food is cold, and we have to pretend that it's warm. And that was the lowest one, dude. Maybe that or the beginning scene with the torture.
That
was the lowest. I'm like, God, this sucks.
In the theater?
No, in the movie.
Yeah, but which scene?
Well, okay.
Oh, this your solitary confinement.
My solitary confinement.
Yeah. I don't know if we can. Gonna get a call from Raja fucking giving.
There's a solitary confinement somewhere in the movie. Okay, big deal.
Tell me the process with you and Raja. So he you know what the characters is about, but what about you? Like, hey, am I doing it right? What do you envision? Like, this is what I'm envisioning. This is what you're envisioning. This is what's on the script. How did that come together? How did that lock when you guys agreed? Like, yeah, this is it. This is Erik. This is this is the character.
Well, I think from the very beginning that was there. Like, we both knew exactly who he was, and we saw pictures and we saw videos, and we were both very kind of like acquainted with his story and his biography and everything. So we kind of knew who this guy was. But then within that, there's some choices that we needed to make. You know what I mean? Should I get really like buff or should I just kind of stay kind of chubby? Or he goes, nah, I think you should stay chubby because he wasn't pretty. He's a narco from Mexico. He doesn't have to look good for anyone. Fuck it. So there were some choices that we need to make, and Raja stepped in and kind of helped me clarify those things.
Do you remember? You were talking about. Do you remember what was the toughest thing for you for that character? Not filming, like not like the conditions, like being in cold, but what was the toughest thing about this character for you to?
Hmm. Wow, that's a great question. What was the most difficult part? Um. Wow. I don't think there was really.
I wanted to ask you about so some of the things that these guys do pretty brutal and violent, and you kind of have to get into that headspace, and then we call cut, and then like everybody's like,
The torture scene.
yeah,
The torture scene. That was the toughest because I had to put myself in kind of deep psychological states and everything, and I was suffering and screaming, and it took a lot of vocal and a lot of that was the toughest part.
what's your process into getting into the character when you show up in the morning and you
Yeah.
see me and you're like, hey, where you want me? I'm like, well, fucking go get changed, do your shit. And then at what point you start getting into the character's head? And I'm like, I'm not Philippe. I'm right now, what, Erik.
I think it's when I'm changing and I'm starting to get, that's kind of the beginning of it. I'm starting to get into that world. I start putting on my outfit and everything, and I start getting into a very relaxed state. Believe it or not, relaxation is the gateway to all the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're tense, you kind of block yourself off from your creativity.
Do you meditate
Yeah, every day,
every day?
every single day.
Is it like
I do TM
okay,
in the morning and in the afternoon.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Clears up mind.
It clears up the mind. Yeah.
When you're on set,
But
do you
this
try
is
to
different. This is different than meditation. This is kind of an artistic actor sort of relaxation. Tension is the enemy of art.
Can you talk about that a little bit? I'm curious. I've never heard anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, basically, at the end of the day, we have two kind of brains, jammed together. We have left and the right.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, and we have the motor brain all the way down the reptilian complex and everything. But basically, when you're in a relaxed state, you're a lot more creative. You're working from one part of the brain and not the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to be really creative, you have to be relaxed. So relaxation is a really part of anything, whether you're a musician or an actor or a painter. Being in a relaxed state is where you're going to produce your best work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different kind of relaxation because you need to be relaxed, and at the same time you need to take yourself through deep psychological states
Mm-hmm.
and emotional states.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Which is different than when you're actually going through it.
Yeah.
When you're actually going through it, you're not working from that part of the brain. You're in survival mode, and you're working from the R complex part of the brain. So when you're screaming, because something's really happening, you're not creative at all. But when you're acting, you need to be so relaxed that you can produce that and at the same time continue to be creative and not shut yourself off from your creativity.
How did you? So okay, that's very interesting. How did you? Where did you learn that?
That's very Strasberg-y. That's very methody. Strasberg is all about the relaxation. In order for you to be in touch with, all the sensory world, the sensory part of everything, it first is relaxation. It all comes from the relaxation, and I kept that in my work.
Do you work with sense memory as well? From like
Yeah,
Strasberg?
I do. Actually, that's still very legit. I think it's super, super important for you to use sense memory. If you're not legitimately feeling in your senses what's happening around you, you're taking a crucial layer of reality or realism from your work. If I'm supposed to be in Siberia in the snow, and I'm in a studio in Burbank, and I'm not legitimately feeling snow,
Mm-hmm.
well, then I'm really not there in a way. I'm cheating it.
Mm-hmm.
So
You're acting.
I'm acting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the idea. You're supposed to be really living it. So how do you do that? Well, you have to experience it and be through relaxation and sense memory. You recreate that in your senses to the point where it's just as real as if you were there.
Interesting.
So you kind of learn to rewire your brain so that you can imagine something and legitimately feel it in your senses.
Is this something that you've developed over the years
Over
in
the years.
acting classes and acting coaches?
Absolutely.
Do you have
And
anybody that you
and I-
recommend and a name drop that you would like to mention? A
Sure.
teacher that you owe a big thank you to, or anybody who made a big impact on your life in
Sure.
the the
Absolutely. And just to finish off that thought, I still do sense memory every day. You have to practice on your own.
mm,
I do relaxation and sense memory every single day. Those are the equivalent of doing, like,
piano.
scales for
Hmm.
a musician. Um, I really like Susan Batson's method. It's called Truth, the name of her book.
Hmm.
And there's a guy here in LA. His name is Greg Braun or Greg Brown. I don't know, whichever way you want to pronounce it. And he teaches at the New Collective LA. And I always go with him every time I prepare. It's a mix of Strasbourg and Hagen.
Nice.
And I really like it because there's some very clear steps that you cover, and then you get into character, from sensory and the private moment and the telephone call and.
I've learned um, years ago that, and I kind of watched you, and this is something I've noticed about you, is that you have actually put in the work a lot.
Yeah.
And that when we did that table read, I was watching, it was like, oh, okay. Because we've met in person, we're talking, and then when we get into the table read and you jumped into the character, I could see the preparations, the years, the studying of different techniques and everything that you just
Yeah.
implemented, because then you're kind of just going off of muscle memory, and you kind of went into the character kind of but that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
How do you feel about actor, like, because I've seen actors that can kind of, I don't want to say wing it, but they're just naturally can just like go.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're that kind of a person, or you're the person who just masters their craft and learns constantly over and over different methods? And
I think I'm a very instinctive natural actor. Since I was young, I can do voices, and I'm naturally just kind of natural, raw.
a bit of a parrot, just like to,
I can just they used to call that's what they used to call me, Stella Adler, the parrot. That was my nickname.
You did Stella Adler?
Stella Adler, yeah, I studied there too.
Where did you not study,
Yeah,
please?
exactly. So that leads me to the second point, which is that um, somebody once taught me, and somebody that I've been studying with, actually, they're based out of Canada. I'm going to drop her name as well. Her name is Alyssa Bernstein,
Mm-hmm.
and they teach a really, really interesting method out of Canada called Vox, VOX, Vox method of acting. And Stephen Leckie is the founder of this technique. And I was talking to her about technique, and I said, because I'm fighting the technique because I want to do what I want to do, just go with my instinct. And I'm like, I just feel like I'm a wild horse, and I just need to tame the horse. And she goes, yeah, because even a wild horse, if it's not tamed, it'll fall asleep in the middle of a race.
Mm.
And I'm like, she's so right. Because even if you're an instinctive one, you still need to be able to control it.
Mm.
Discipline is definitely the way to freedom.
Know your craft.
The more disciplined you are and the more control you have over your instrument, the more free you are. Discipline is the path to freedom.
Very interesting, my friend. Very interesting. Is there something that going into the future now? So I want to kind of, before we finish off, talk about a little bit what do you think American Sicario did for you, and what you took from it mainly, and then where is that going, and what do you think that you need to, like, when you watch some of this stuff, what do you want to work on as an actor next, and what's coming
What's
next?
next?
Not in general, like movies, we'll get to that, but I'm thinking from the acting point of view, all the work and everything you've done up until the point when we were shooting, after you saw what we shot and you saw the dailies and everything, you were like, okay, well, that was another leap in your, in the level of acting, in the time. Like this was a big film, big feature film.
Yeah.
What is there something that you want to work on going forward, and something that you've found yourself in the middle of the set, the production, and you're like, I really need to spend more time on this, or something that I want to, be more prepared or need more time for next time?
I see. So not work on as far as what characters I like to play, but more what do I need to work on as an actor?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Wow. I think that I think that I need to. I mean, I'm good at memorizing lines, but I tend to paraphrase a lot,
Uh-huh.
and I need to be more strict with myself and really respect
Can
the
you
writing.
elaborate on that?
Yeah,
I'm not
just to
sure what you mean.
respect the writing even more. Because sometimes I'll get close enough, and but that's doesn't cut it a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So I
I don't agree with you on that one. I think you're being overly critical of
maybe
yourself. I
maybe
worked with actors that I would consider to have. You're not the one of the people that would have a problem in memorizing lines or sticking to especially that the movies. You're in 85% of the movie, and you have some long dialogues and monologues and lines and whatnot.
Yep.
I think you did a fantastic job
Thank you, buddy.
memorizing.
Thank you.
No,
But
I mean it because listen, fuck, are we gonna, there was a point where we were thinking that we might have to have some cue cards for. Anyways, I'm not gonna go there, but
I heard the other day that somebody acted with somebody else, and they were so bad at their learning the lines that the other person requested that they tape the lines to their foreheads. That way they could see their line. They could keep the eye line, and at the same time, like, look. No, but what happens is we were lucky because obviously Rich is, it's our movie and we could do whatever we want with it. But sometimes, the WGA will really crack down on that, and they'll make sure that you get every single punctuation, every word, like they can be really, really, strict about it. So
no, yeah, but I think I think you did. I think you did fantastic
Thank
in
you.
terms of
Appreciate
memorizing.
it.
I don't think we had any issues with that whatsoever. But
thank you.
again, going to like this experience pushed you to another level.
Yeah.
I'm aspiring to be better every day with what I do, learning every day, wanting to achieve more, wanting to be better, and anything that I do should be for me is an experience that I want to better myself, just
Right.
on daily. So, what was American Sicario for you, as to better yourself as an actor?
Well, I think that even though you disagree with me, I think that, my God, man, there's so many things. They're very technical. I don't know if you'll understand them or not, because you see, if I'll try to share one, see if you understand. This is very kind of deep, kind of textual diction kind of actor stuff, but if the script is very well written,
Mm-hmm.
every single line should be either intellectual or emotional.
Okay, can you
Every
elaborate
single
on
one.
that a little
Yeah,
bit? What do you mean by that?
every single one. Every single one is either intellectual, like it's internal, or it's external.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one, whether the actors realize it or not. This is kind of the Vox method of acting stuff that I do. So that should be represented in a to and fro, like, when you deliver a line, one should be forward and the other one backward,
Mm-hmm.
even minimally, but it
Okay.
needs to be there in order to really, I mean, I'm getting really to the really,
Nitty-gritty.
really nitty gritty part of acting,
Okay,
so I like to incorporate that more into my technique,
into the character
into
development.
the
and-
character development and everything.
Wonderful. All right, man. What's next?
So what's next? We're looking at a project in the Ukraine. In
Raja shot with Rich in Ukraine, right? They did.
they did
Rising
that movie.
Hawk.
They did Rising Hawk, and they won awards over there and everything. So they know people over there, which is part of our motivation, to go to the Ukraine, simply because of, obviously the money goes further over there, and they got studios and whatever. So
Experience shooting there and everything.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a project over there, a spy thriller type of thing, where I can, start to do a little bit of Russian accent, do my Russian stuff.
You love accents.
I
don't you?
love them, dude.
know
That's
you
my
do.
favorite.
That's your
That's
favorite
my
thing.
favorite thing, bro. That's my bread and
The
butter,
whole
bro.
time on set.
Yeah.
Jumping in and out of character, by the way, I wanted to ask you real quick about that too. You know how you were telling me, like, when you start getting into the character, does it take you any time to, like, when we go for lunch or anything, do you bring the character home with you?
No, I believe it.
That's it?
It's for me, it's hard to keep it up.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's
Okay.
not hard to get out of it. It's hard to get into it,
Get
especially
into
when
it.
you're doing it so much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking to just take a break from this crap. Like,
Yeah.
God, I can't wait to
Go be yourself.
Ah,
Relax.
relax, dude, because
Go
it takes
feed it.
energy to keep that shit up.
Absolutely.
And especially when you have such little time to do it. I only had 3 months to get into it. You know what I mean? If I had been working on
I'm-
it for years, like Daniel Day-Lewis, and you try to change who you really are, and I
Mm.
mean, this is something else. But if you have that little time,
Well, I was very impressed, sir. I
Thank you,
was
sir.
very impressed with your work. I did.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. You did phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Again, I had no idea what we were, or any of us really, other than maybe Ross and Raja, who were kind of closer, and Rich, But even Rich, I think nobody really saw the acting you were doing with the people that we were casting, right?
Yeah.
And then the table read and me and Rich, I remember, and Pascal and everybody, we kind of came together and we were like, "Fuck, this was great."
Yeah,
So it was,
yeah.
it was fantastic. So, real quick, what did American Sicario did for you for the future? You think what's the next thing that we're looking into another projects, but as an actor, what do you think? Is this just another stepping stone to?
It was a humongous stepping stone. It was a catapult. Like, it catapulted me into, into the future, into the sky. It was an incredible amount of validation as an actor. Just being able to say that I play the lead in a movie of this stature is huge for my confidence, for my exposure. You will kind of started to know who I am a little bit. I mean, this is humongous for me. I can't tell you how important it was for me. So
Now we've talked about American Sicario for a little bit. The memories is a little bit more refreshed. Is there something that came to your mind that was like your favorite part? Something that you enjoyed? That was a lot of fun to do.
well, I mean,
Something maybe you would like to do more of as an actor. Something like what that was really fun. I would like to do that more. I know you talked about working with Maurice.
yeah.
So he's a very method actor.
Yeah, I don't really know what his process is, to be honest.
Well, I can tell you from the driving scene, he's very very method.
Well, he took it far, but I don't know if he really lives his parts. I mean, look, over the years, I've heard three definitions of method.
Mm-hmm.
Number one is for the people that know their shit, and that is coming from Stanislavski. Stanislavski, first he called it a system, but it's somehow translated into method in the United States. So the people that really know their shit know that there's only one, which is Stanislavski.
Okay.
And they call it the method.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is the people that do Strasberg, because Strasberg is teaching the older version of Stanislavski. And he hijacked the word method because he's teaching the older one. So he's method.
Okay.
But now that really means whether you use sense memory or effective memory or any of that stuff that nobody else does, really. Well, the Hagen people do it in a different way. And then the third people are the people that have absolutely no fucking idea what they're talking about. And when they say method, they really refer to anybody that tries to live the part. Or they say in a derogatory way, like they try to, they take it too far. But in reality, all of them, you're supposed to research the part and live it to some degree. Even Adler would ask you to go and, go and be in a hospital if you're going to play a doctor. And same with Meisner people. I mean, you really have to research the part and live it as much as you possibly can. There's nothing really methody about that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I don't really know how far he takes. I mean, I don't know what definition you meant from all the three. Which one do you mean method?
He was coked up crazy when he was supposed to be coked up crazy, driving.
But he really didn't do coke.
Right.
Exactly. So he wasn't living it.
No, he was just, but it felt real for everyone around.
Oh yeah. Well, no, of course he made it look real.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean he's living it. No?
Right.
Yeah, but he's a very good actor. He's very convincing.
I think we were all very convinced.
Yeah, me too. Dude, and I was scared, and I was like looking over at him.
What would you like to do more of from American Sicario? Something that was a lot of fun for you. You're like, I would like to. Yeah, this was amazing.
I would like to do more of it. I would like to turn this into a TV show. That would be great.
Oh, you mean like the So
Yeah,
I was thinking more like a certain part of the act or something that you were doing that you were like, wow, this was a lot of fun for me. Is there a day or scene or sequence or anything that we were doing that you remember that were like, wow, this was fun. I want to work on this more. I want to develop this more. Not particularly for American Sicario. I mean, you as an actor. you know,
Well, I mean, that scene that I did with Maurice was probably my favorite scene. The one we're just outside.
in the little, yeah,
That was great. And the
that was
kind of the
great.
last face off where we're just kind of like
Everybody was freezing their ass off. but it
freezing
was
their
in the
fucking ass off,
yeah.
and we're just him and me, and we're just, and there's nothing else going on. It's just, I
Middle
was
of-
so absorbed by that moment.
middle of the night, middle
And
of
Maurice,
November.
if you look at Maurice, he does what I'm telling you instinctively. He kept going forward and looking at me, and then he goes back. He goes, and that'll be the last. And he looks forward again, and then he goes back. He gave this stuff, and it makes it interesting.
Hmm.
He goes forward and backward naturally.
Absolutely.
You're giving variation to your acting. He was an excellent actor.
Very proud of the work we did.
Me too, man. I loved every moment of it. Everyone was great.
Yeah.
No complaints. Great learning experiences, and hopefully more projects to come.
Absolutely. What do you got? What do you got coming up next?
This Ukraine project that we're looking
Is
at,
that
I've
pretty
got,
close?
where Rich is, he's maybe 2 or 3 weeks away from the first draft. I'm producing this one as well. So I got some.
You gonna act in it as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't produce unless I wasn't going to act in it.
Got it. Okay.
I wouldn't go through all this and then not get to act. That'd be like the biggest tease in the world.
Is it gonna shoot in? It's gonna shoot in Ukraine.
It's going to shoot in the Ukraine because we're partnering up with some people over there, and they have studios.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to put some of the money, and then they're going to put some of the studio stuff.
And I remember you telling me about this delusional character guy that thinks he's a.
Yeah, we're still visiting that one, but
Because I know you want to do comedy, right? You
I
want to
really want to do. There's so many things I want to do. I would like to do some, people's lives. There's some characters that I really want to explore, but I think at this juncture in my career, I think it would be smarter to stick to my type.
Mm-hmm.
I look like a badass. Anger and the badass mafia kind of guy suits me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for now, just continue to get in shape and start playing more of these badass guys for a while until I make a little bit of a name for myself, and then maybe I can start doing other stuff.
Wonderful, sir.
Yeah,
This was fun, man.
it was.
Thank you so
Great.
much for coming.
Thank
and
you for
doing
having
this.
me.
Absolutely. We'll see you again. All right, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, bye, everybody.
See you guys, and I wish you luck with the show. It's great.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Sounds like a great thing.
All right, bye.